Hello and thank you for joining me on another episode of the Tech Exec podcast where we triple your impact per engineer. As always, I'm your host, Aviv Ben-Yosef, advisor and consultant to tech executives worldwide, and our subject today is swimming against the tide. So I talk a lot about the importance of realizing when doing something makes sense and when you're just doing it for the sake of doing it. Don't create technology for the sake of technology, but only if it makes sense for the business bottom line, for example. However, sometimes it makes a lot of sense to choose how you're going to be swimming against the tide. Sometimes being contrarian, looking at what everyone's doing it this way and saying, I don't think that's necessarily the best way for us to do it, can be a great way for you to be innovative, to leverage your specific situation to ensure that you are gaining a better position in the market. You are creating a team that is significantly better than anyone else in the industry. You are going to outperform, outdeliver all of your competition. How can you do that? Precisely by spotting those areas where it makes sense for you to swim against the tide. Now, sometimes it makes really no sense. For example, I have an old episode here where I talk about people creating all of these weird ways of managing the team or weird organizational structures. They have their own wacky idea of what agile should look like, or a very weird multi-dimensional matrix management thing going on, which makes no sense to me. And I say, why reinvent the wheel if this is not what's going to get you to leap in the industry, if this is not what will be the differentiator for a company? So sometimes swimming against the tide just makes no sense. You're just going to be more tired. However, there are areas where it does make sense. So if you're following Basecamp, 37 Signals, I forget what their current name is, DHH, the CTO, talked about the fact that they're going to be moving off of AWS in order to save $7 million in 5 years. Now, frankly, I ranted against this on LinkedIn because I'm like, okay, he is swimming against the tide, but what is he getting? $7 million over 5 years is not that much money for any sizable SaaS company. And having the CTO, for example, spend a lot of their time on this means that there's a lot of missed opportunity cost here. We could have probably found better ways to make the product better for our users, not just move things between servers in a way that no one actually notices. However, he is swimming against the tide in a way that makes sense specifically for him and his business, I believe. So even though this is not something I would recommend basically to any one of my clients, he has his own reasons and he has genuinely thought about it. He listed the values for 37 Signals and whatever have you. It seems like this is something that makes sense for him and something that he believes will make him better or make his life's mission better. So he wants to do things that support the old style of the open internet. Okay, do that. Many shareholders are not going to enjoy seeing companies waste time on something like that. But if that's your mission and you own basically most of the company, all right, do that. Or he has a value of being adventurous, which I translate to, I'm bored. Okay, do adventurous things just for that. However, you can spot instances where swimming against the tide makes sense for you as well. For example, I recently talked to a couple of friends of mine who are founders of a new company, and they describe how they decided to hire juniors to their relatively small team. So part of their founding team, part of their startup's core team has already a handful of people who would be considered juniors. And the fact that they decide to do this, which is against what most people would consider the right way to grow a team, is based on their specific differentiators. They know that they can be very good when it comes to mentoring people. They know that they can spot people who are diamonds in the rough, those people who are now juniors but have the capability to learn really, really fast. And also they know that they also have a handful of extremely talented engineers, meaning that they usually always get things done on time and have some extra capacity. So they can take on these juniors, train them, and know that in 6 months, in a year, they're going to have great engineers at usually a fraction of the cost, and also with the ability to shape the types of engineers they turn into. Think about that. where can you swim against the tide in a way that actually creates these differentiators? If you get this muscle that allows you to bring in juniors, this is going to be immensely useful once you start hiring again and ramping up. If you find a way to do things that pretty much no one else around you is going to be doing, this can become your magic trick that allows you to do things that previously were impossible. I don't know which one is your specific advantage. And if you want, we can chat about it. My email's in the show notes. But you can always find something. I'm sure of that. I've always seen that happen with clients that thought this was an important thing and spent an effort to get there. And once you do that, this can really be something that pushes your team from great to amazing. And, life's too short not to think about that. At least, that's what I think. That's it for this week. Thank you for joining me. If you haven't yet, do check out my newsletter. It's the best newsletter online for tech executives. And also check out the Leading Edge Club, my closed community for execs in tech. It's free, but innovate only. You can see more details in the show notes and apply. That's it. Thank you. Talk to you next week.